While Bessie was rocking beside me, I heard the screen door open and Mama come out on the porch. She reached for Bobby, so I got up and let her have him. She went in and sat on the steps with him and hugged him up against her like he was sleeping in her lap. Only he didn't curl up against her the way he'd always done. He just hung there like one of the twins' paper dolls that don't care nothing about the person that's playing with it. Ida and Ellie cowered on either side of Mama. When Ellie felt how cold Bobby was, she come back and got the quilt and covered him up. Mama wrapped it around his body and cuddled him like he was a newborn and said, "Hush, hush, honey, don't cry." But I didn't know who she was talking to because every one of us was crying. Then Bessie went and knelt on the porch floor behind my mama and put her arms around her and said, "Have mercy." She leaned her forehead to the back of Mama's hair and said, "We stopped by the Hinkles to use the telephone. Reverend Price will be here soon." Mama nodded, and I thought she looked grateful. Bessie said, "I'm going to go inside and cook y'all a good meal. Junior is on the back looking for some wood to build a box for Bobby." I knew Daddy had some cedar boards in the shed because he had made a wardrobe for Mama last Christmas, so I started around the side of the house to see if I could help. It was better than watching my Mama suffer. Junior was dusting off them leftover boards when I got there. He had put on his best blue jeans and a blue plaid shirt like he was going to town. I picked up a rag and started helping him. He didn't look at me or say a word. When his daddy died, I didn't know what to say either. Now I thought how Bessie was the one who always knew the right thing to say. Have mercy. It didn't try to make you feel better or explain something that couldn't be explained. It just felt like a prayer. I spoke up to save Junior the trouble. Daddy was going to build Pete a doghouse from these boards, I said, when he comes home from the war. "I don't reckon Pete come home with your mama, did he?" "No," I said. "Leastways, I didn't see him." I could tell from the way Junior was eyeballing them boards that he was trying to figure out how long to cut them. I knew he didn't want to go around to the front porch and measure Bobby for his coffin. "Wouldn't surprise me a bit," he said, "if that dog would come dragging in here to sleep on Bobby's grave. Dogs have a way of knowing these things." I picked up a board and set it on the end to make sure it came up to my waist. I knew exactly how high Bobby was, standing next to me. "This one's a good length," I said to Junior. "Use it." So that's what we used to cut the other boards by. Junior put the boards across the porch with the extra part hanging out over the edge. I set them to hold them while he cut them on Daddy's handsaw. The sawdust settled like snow on Junior's black shoe. When it come time to hammer them boards together, I made Junior let me take a turn. I needed to hit something, and them nails were convenient. I imagined polio germs was on them nail heads. I hit them hard and straight. It done something for me to smack them nails. It was like being mad took the place of hurting, for a while anyway. When the box was all nailed together, I went and got a can of oil from the cellar steps. I rubbed the oil into the wood just like Daddy did on Mama's wardrobe, and it gave the box a nice shine. When Junior and I carried it around to the front porch, Mama was still standing there trying to cuddle with Bobby and using her thumb to push his curls behind his ears. Reverend Price was there too. He had brought his wife Mavis with him and Lottie Sconce too. Lottie was the woman from church whose 2 boys was killed in the war. Now here she was, standing with them other church people around the bottom of the steps, patting my sisters on the head and not saying much. Tears were dripping off her trembly chin. Then all of a sudden, just like she had done at church every Sunday, she snapped open her pocketbook and pulled out a mint candy for each of my sisters. The preacher was trying to make arrangements for the burial, but Mama wasn't saying much. Sometimes she would nod like the Reverend Price suggested digging the grave under the mimosa tree. "I think it'll be easier to dig there," he said. But I knew he was looking at the lacy leaves and the feathery pink blossoms and thinking how it would always be a pretty sight. Junior set the cedar box on the front porch, and I took the quilt and folding it so it would fit inside. I made a little pot pillow for Bobby's head, and Lottie Sconce put a mint candy inside. She even gave Bobby one every Sunday since he was 2 years old, so I reckon she wanted to do it one last time. Reverend Price asked me for a shovel, so I took him around back and let the women help Mama put Bobby in the cedar box. I got the shovel from where it hung over 2 nails on the shed wall. Junior found a pick axe, and the three of us walked down to the mimosa tree. We took turns digging, and I dug just as good as the men did, because I was madder than both of them put together. And besides, I had to do Daddy's part. By the time Reverend Price decided it was deep enough, his white shirt was soaked plumb through and smears of red dirt on it. He pulled a comb and handkerchief out of his back pocket and made himself look like the preacher again, while Junior and I drunk water from the dipper in the bucket on the back porch. Bessie brought the preacher a cup of cold water from the refrigerator. I went inside and pulled on my blue Sunday dress. Then I grabbed Ida's and Ellie's navy blue dresses with the white pinafores and shoved them over their heads while they sobbed. "Slick your hair down," I said. I run a brush through mine and got a barrette out of the little cedar box my daddy made for me last Christmas. I seen a dime and 2 pennies laying in there. They put me in the mind of the pennies Daddy gave Bobby when he went away. I thought how Bobby had clung on to them like it was his last piece of bread. I took those pennies out of my box, and I went to the porch and put one in each of Bobby's hands. "There you go, Bobby," I said. "That's from your daddy." But they slid right out of his hands into that crazy quilt. When everybody was all set, Reverend Price and Junior carried Bobby's box on their shoulders down to the grave. Ida and Ellie walked between them with their hands stretched up, barely touching the box with their fingertips, but still trying to do their best to carry Bobby one last time. The rest of us followed so quiet all you could hear was our feet crunching on the dry grass. We stood around the grave, and Junior and the Reverend wiggled the box into the hole. I reckon the funeral home would have done a better job, but I know it would have not been done with as much love as we put into it. Every one of us took turns shoveling dirt on that box. Marvis Price started singing Amazing Grace, and Bessie joined in, singing with the harmony. They stood there like two opposites. Marvis, thin and neat with her white lace collar and blue hat, and Bessie, large and soft with her green flowered dress and Mama's pink apron. It was smeared with flour and food stains, and Bessie's dark hair had some flour in it too. It really surprised me when I heard my Mama singing, and the next thing I knew, I was singing along. I reckon we all sung a part of it one time or another. Marvis sung every word of every verse in a voice pure as an angel's. Then Reverend Price quoted the Shepherd's Psalm, and we all joined in on account of we had memorized it in Sunday school. Reverend Price said some words that no one had memorized, things only a preacher would know, about the ways of God and how we don't understand them, about the waters passing over us and how God promises He'll be with us anyway. He didn't ask, did anybody want to say any words to Bobby, and I just kept thinking, good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. But it didn't seem like the right thing to say, so I didn't. But then Mama surprised me by saying it herself. She told how Bobby said it every night to the nurses at the polio hospital. She said the nurses loved Bobby like he was their own, and when the electricity went out in the middle of a lightning storm, one of them cranked his iron lung by hand for over an hour until the lights come back on. "She saved Bobby's life," said Mama. For a while, anyway. They started up a bunch of questions about the polio hospital. Mavis Price asked how come the emergency hospital let her bring Bobby home. "Weren't they worried about you bringing polio germs home?" she asked. "I don't think so," said Mama. "People come and go from the hospital every day, you know. I never got into the contagious ward, not even when Bobby was in there. But still, I had to get permission from the health officer before I could bring him." Ida wanted to know why didn't Pete come home from the hospital with Bobby. Mama threw her hand over her mouth and said, "Oh, my Lord, I forgot about Pete. You know, the whole time I was there, I never told them he was our dog. But I called him by his name, and the next thing I knew, everyone was calling him Polio Pete." Mama said the nurse would sneak good chicken meat to Pete. "It got to where Pete was everybody's dog," she said. I think we were all just so glad to have Mama talking again. Mavis Price took her by the arm, and the next thing I knew, we was all wandering up to the house and singing, "I'll Fly Away, Oh Glory." Bessie laid out such a spread on the table that a body would hardly believe there was a war on. We had mashed potatoes, cured ham, green beans, tomatoes, and biscuits with blackberry jelly. The blackberries put Mama in the mind of another story about the emergency hospital. She said back in June, when it was still a health camp for children who had been sick, Miss Errol Townsend promised the campers that if they picked blackberries, she'd make a cobbler. Well, she was mixing up the batter when the telephone rang. It was Dr. Wims, the county health officers. He told Miss Townsend the campers had to leave in 30 minutes so it could become a polio hospital. Well, said Mama, Miss Townsend said she couldn't possibly send the children home without their blackberry cobbler, so Dr. Wims gave her 45 minutes instead. When those children got back with the berries, they started packing their clothes while Miss Townsend did the baking. They were eating cobbler when the cars started lining up outside to take them home. Miss Townsend never did leave, Mama continued. She stayed right there and became the hospital cook. I looked at us crowded around our little kitchen table with 2 people on either side and someone in every corner with their knees straddling the table legs. I got to thinking how amazing it was that these people were there laughing and talking to us after so many weeks with just the 3 of us girls. It was kind of strange that we were laughing on the day of my brother's funeral, but then again, most of the people had lost their own family members, and maybe that's why it was so good at bringing comfort to other people. But all of a sudden, right in the middle of a hearty laugh over something Junior had said, Mama got real quiet and laid down her fork. She got up from the table and went outside on the back porch. We watched her go, and our laughing turned into pure quiet and followed her out the door.